welcome back. Today I'll be sharing my October wrap-up. October was an interesting month, let's say. It was definitely the worst reading month I've had since the beginning of the year. I had really high hopes and expectations for it because it was my birthday month, and I had prepared like a TBR list which sounded super interesting, and I was sure that I was gonna love all the books I read, and I think that was the problem. Like, I had a lot of expectations, and that was wrong. So without further ado, I started reading 10 books. I did not finish 10 books, spoiler alert. So what happened is that the first week was okay. During the first week I've read From Blood and Ash, which is one of my favorite books of the year and of all time. It's absolutely amazing, which is strange because when this first came out, I read a couple of chapters and I decided that it was not for me. And last month I decided to give it a second chance, and I'm so glad that I did because I absolutely adored this story. So this is about Penelope, who is a maiden. And basically this is like the chosen one trope, but it's kind of subverted. And Poppy, as the maiden, has been guarded her whole life. She cannot like leave her room whenever she wants. She cannot interact with other people. She cannot have friends. She cannot basically she's a prisoner. And she gets a new guard, Hawk, who absolutely doesn't care that she has this special status, and he makes her feel alive. And you can imagine how the story goes from there. This is a vampire story. I know, it's like, if you read the synopsis, you might not get that, and I don't think it's a spoiler because like it's everywhere, and I think it's been advertised and marketed as a vampire story. But it's a very unique take on vampires because this is high fantasy, and normally vampires and werewolves, etc., are in urban fantasy or in paranormal. So this was very unique. I absolutely loved it. I'm reading book 2 at the moment, and I cannot wait to share my thoughts on it. I really hope it's as good as this one. So this was definitely a 5-star read and the highlight of my reading month. But after that, everything went downhill, and I mean downhill. So next up, I started reading The Witch's Kiss, which is from the same authors who wrote A Throne of Swans, which I absolutely loved. This is a Swan Lake retelling, quite unique. I highly recommend it. So naturally, when I found out that the author duo who wrote Throne of Swans had a completed trilogy, I thought I was gonna love this. So I got the first book, and it seemed like a very easy read, and it is, but it was so boring. Like, this is my main problem with it. It was boring as hell. So what happened is that this book, half of it takes place in the Middle Ages, well, the Dark Ages really, because it's like the 5th century AD, and half of it takes place in modern day. And I thought this was so unique because we almost never see exactly that time period, like of the Dark Ages, 4th, 5th, 6th century, and I really love that period. But the thing is that after the beginning, which was very interesting, it sucked me right in, and after that it all fell flat. Because, for example, I started noticing like little discrepancies here and there. For example, in the 5th century, the prince is called Jack, which seemed quite strange to me. So I checked, and the name Jack dates back to the 11th century, not to the 5th century. So technically that shouldn't have been an option in the 5th century. But anyway, these are little things, but it kind of irked me. And basically this follows Mary, who is a witch, and her ancestors back in the 5th century made a promise to protect the prince, Jack, and they didn't keep their promise. So the vow that they made is getting transferred onto the next generation and next generation, etc., until one of their descendants manages to kind of fulfill the promise they made. And Jack wakes up in modern day, and he is in service of the Dark Lord, and Mary has to help him. And that's pretty much it. The only unique thing about this book was the ending. I think the authors did something very brave, but still it didn't make this book any more enjoyable, to me at least. And I think that this might have been geared toward a younger audience, so I don't know, I didn't enjoy this very much. It was like the whole middle of the book was so boring and repetitive. Like, they weren't doing anything interesting. They were just sitting beside a lake and that was it. And I didn't enjoy this at all. I gave it 2.5 stars. I'm still not sure whether I should round it up to 3 stars or whether I should round it down to 2 stars, but still, it was not enjoyable. I had to push through and make myself finish this book because I was not enjoying it at all. So after that, I read Fable by Adrian Young, and so I expected that I was gonna love this, and I didn't. I ended up giving it 3 stars because I think it was very average. This is a story about a girl called Fable. Her father is the most prosperous trader in the place where she lives. The place, like the area, not just the town or a village or whatever, just the whole area. And he owns a lot of ships, and she grew up aboard the ship, and the only thing she wants in life is for her father to take her on and recognize her as his successor. However, her father left her on an island 4 years ago when she was like 13 to fend for herself, because this is what fathers do apparently. And she's been living like the past 4 years in like poverty. She learned how to take care of herself, but it was like, it's a very brutal world, and we get to see that in the first chapters, and like throughout the whole story it really is a brutal world, and we get to see that. It's definitely not like a fairy tale. And what I liked about this book was the fact that it's set in an ocean setting, so most of the action takes place at sea or at various ports, but that was everything. And my main problem is that the stakes of this book were not high enough. Like I just didn't care because there wasn't anything important at stake. So Fable goes to her father, and she wants to find her father so that she can ask him to take her on as his successor and to work with him on his ship. That's the stakes. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that was it. And I don't know, it was disappointing. The ending, like the final chapter, was interesting. It ended literally on a cliffhanger, and this is the only reason why I might consider reading the second book, which comes out in a few months. It's we won't have to wait for a full year since the release of the first book. I think they're publishing them very, very close together. And I don't know, if I decide to read the sequel, it's only gonna be because of the last chapter and because of the cliffhanger and the way it ended. But that's it. I'm not interested in anything else. And I didn't really like the story. I don't know. It was just underwhelming. That's the word I'm looking for. And I see that everyone else loved this book. I see stellar reviews everywhere, and I didn't enjoy it. That's it. I gave it 3 stars. Oh, next up, I started reading Mexican Gothic, and I still haven't finished it because I reached like 70%, and I didn't feel compelled to read it or finish it or anything. Like it was so slow. And I get that we were supposed to be falling into this dreary atmosphere, which is kind of repetitive, and this is kind of part of the psychosis that you get from being in such a place, but it didn't work out for me personally. And I see a lot of other reviews which kind of are on the same page, and yeah, I don't know. I will definitely try to finish this book before the end of the year, but I don't know if it's gonna be this month. And I'm super bummed because it was one of my most anticipated releases of the year. It is a Mexican Gothic story set in I think back in the 1970s or 1950s, maybe 1950s, in Mexico. And our protagonist goes to visit her cousin, who is having these hallucinations, delusions, whatever. She's sick. She just recently got married, and she lives in this crumbling mansion. So our heroine hasn't seen her cousin for some time, and she goes there to investigate what's happening, if her cousin's new family is poisoning her or whatever the hell is happening. And I don't know, the beginning was interesting. Again, like with the other books I read this month, the beginning was interesting, and then the middle started dragging, and it just didn't go anywhere. And I think I have like 30% left of the book, and I honestly don't care. I don't care what happens, but I'm gonna finish this book because I want to see if the ending is gonna make up for everything else, if it's gonna be worth it, or if it's gonna fall flat and is just gonna be one utter disappointment, which is not gonna surprise me because this month was precisely that. Okay, so next up, I read Storm and Fury because I said already that I absolutely adored From Blood and Ash, and I thought, look, Jennifer L. Armentrout has such a huge backlist that I can read her works for like the next year and still not be finished with all of them. And I picked up her, this series is a trilogy. The second book came out a few months ago, and the final book is coming out next year. So this is like a very recent series of hers. It follows a girl, Trinity. It's urban fantasy, and the magical thing in this world is that there are gargoyles who are like protectors, and they fight demons. And Trinity lives in a compound with these gargoyles. She's human, but she has special abilities. We don't know why yet, because as you can see, I'm only 150 pages in. And I started this book and I haven't finished it because I grew bored. I don't know, maybe the problem this month was with me. Maybe I wasn't in the mood or something. I don't know, but this was boring. I'm not sure if I'm gonna finish it. I gave up. That's it. It wasn't original, it wasn't entertaining. There's kind of an insta-lovey situation going on, and I didn't enjoy it. Maybe one day when I'm not feeling so bitter, I'll pick it back up, but so far, I don't think that's gonna happen soon. Next up, and I technically did not finish this book in October. I finished it on November 1st, and this is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. Okay, so this was one of my most anticipated releases of the year, and I'm missing the dust jacket. It's somewhere around the house. Okay, so this book is about a magical school, but if you're thinking Hogwarts, it's not Hogwarts. It's like the exact opposite. And if someone thought Hogwarts was unsafe, this school is gonna blow your mind. Basically, everything here can kill you. Like, you go to the cafeteria, have lunch, and then a demon, or they call them maleficaria, or mouse, and so a demon / mouse pops up from one of the dishes and tries to kill you, things like that. And so this is the setting. The whole book takes place inside this school because the students cannot leave. They have to leave at graduation, which is at the end of their senior year, and they literally have to fight their way out of the school, which is why only seniors do it, because they're the most prepared for that. And it's very dangerous. It's a very tough place to live. Kids are constantly dying. We see that like throughout the whole book, kids are constantly dying. So it's definitely very kind of dark. And it follows Elle, our main character, whose name is Galadriel. And there were like Lord of the Rings jokes inside, a couple, I think, which was nice. Basically, if you've watched the Disney animated movie Hercules, it's like from 1996 or 1997, something like that. So Megara from that movie is Galadriel, and Hercules is Orion, the male main character. Their dynamic is that precisely. She is bitter, she's sarcastic, she is just snappy, she's amazing, and he is just this cotton ball of sweetness. And basically what happens is that she's super powerful, but she's hiding her powers because she doesn't want to be center of attention, and for various other reasons which make sense. And he actually goes around and saves people all day long, like, because he's very powerful as well, but he doesn't hide his strength because he doesn't need to. And he goes and kills all the demons / mouse everywhere. He saves the lives of his fellow students all the time, and he's like the local hero. So the way he kills the demons is precisely like I imagine it, because it's described exactly the way Hercules was killing the demons in that movie. Like, he was tying them up instead of like normal people. Elle thinks, like the main character thinks, normal people are just gonna blast them or something, and he actually goes and ties them up and like drags them and stuff like that. So it's super funny. There were a lot of very funny moments in this, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars in the end. It wasn't a 5-star read for me because nothing much happened really. Like, this is more of a character-driven story, and we don't get much of a plot. And basically, in terms of the characters and character developments and the friendships that were developed, this is top-notch. It was amazing. I really enjoyed watching how Galadriel went from being friendless and extremely sad and very lonely into forming her own group of friends. That was adorable. It was really heartwarming, and I absolutely loved it. But I just couldn't give this 5 stars because, again, in terms of plot, it wasn't the fastest moving, or it wasn't like necessarily the most entertaining. Like, there's a lot of descriptions. We get a lot of inner thoughts, Galadriel's inner thoughts, and they're quite interesting. I wasn't bored or anything, but it was an action. And I'm not saying that there has to be action in every single book, but I just think that if we had a little more action, that would have been nice. But yeah, 4 stars. I definitely enjoyed this book very, very, very much. But again, I finished this in November, and so I enjoyed one book at the beginning of the month and one book at the end of the month, and that was it. And the other 4 books that I read were Agatha Christie's. So I read Cards on the Table, which is part of the Hercule Poirot series. I really enjoyed it. It was a reread for me. I gave it 4 stars. And then I read Elephants Can Remember, which is also a Hercule Poirot book. And I hated this one. I gave it 2 stars. I really did not enjoy the mystery or the message. I didn't enjoy anything about it, really. And yeah, I think this is because it's the penultimate book in the Hercule Poirot, and it shows, because like the later books are more focused on reminiscence and remembrance, because obviously like Agatha Christie was in her late years when she wrote them, so it was like you could see how nostalgic she was about the past, and I get that. I just didn't enjoy reading it. I think that's like the main point. And the third Agatha Christie book I read was Sleeping Murder, which is the final book in the Miss Marple series. I absolutely adored this one. It was a very, very interesting and unique mystery. I gave it 4 stars. It was brilliant. I really loved it. And the final one was The Secret of Chimneys, which is a standalone, and I didn't finish it. I'm gonna finish it in this month because I got so bored with it. I didn't care. It seemed like the whole plot seemed so far-fetched because it was very political. It followed like kings and rebellions and stuff like that, which was so unlike Agatha Christie novels in general, and I didn't enjoy it. So I'm gonna finish it because I have like an hour left on the audiobook, but I didn't finish it in October. I was listening to it for like 2 weeks or something, which is ridiculous because it's an 8-hour audiobook, so come on. But yeah, so this was my disappointing October wrap-up. I really hope that November is gonna be better, and yeah, let me know which one was your favorite book that you read in October, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!